everyone. Today we're going to use a hit satirical movie to get our heads around a really strange but very real thing happening in our world. We're going to dig into why a movie about a giant comet felt, less like a comedy and a whole lot more like a documentary. So let's just get right to it. I think the big question a lot of us had after watching Don't Look Up was, why did this movie, a comedy about the end of the world, feel so much like a documentary, right? It was supposed to be absurd, but it just felt weirdly familiar, like we were looking in a mirror. Okay, so to figure that out, we've got to look at why this satire hit so close to home. See, the people who made this film didn't just come up with a funny story. What they really did was build a perfect, tiny model of our world today. The whole movie is basically what you could call a series of absurdities. Seriously, every single scene is set up to show you a world where a clear, simple fact, like a giant comet about to smash into us, can somehow be debated, twisted, and in the end, just flat out ignored. It's an incredible look at what we call post-truth storytelling. And the film fills its crazy world with these perfect character types, right? I mean, you've got the politician who's way more worried about poll numbers than, total annihilation. You've got the tech billionaire who looks at the end of the world and just sees a business opportunity. There's even the scientist who gets pulled in by fame. And of course, the media, who'd rather talk about a celebrity breakup than a planet killer. Does any of that sound familiar? So all these characters, they're all playing their parts inside a very specific kind of world. And the movie just nails it. And that brings us right to the heart of what we're talking about today, the post-truth world. Now, you can forget the dictionary definition. The way it's described in our source material is so much more powerful. Post-truth isn't just people lying. It's about the crushing and pulverizing of reality itself. It's about grinding down the facts until they're like dust, so fine that you can't even see them anymore, let alone get a grip on them. So how in the world did we end up here? Well, there's been this massive shift. Think about it. Back in the day, there was usually one main source of truth, right? Like the church or the government. Your reality was supposed to line up with that reality. But now, we're living in a world with billions, literally billions of different centers of truth. What's real for you might not be real for me or the person next door. And here's the kicker. In this new world, our perception doesn't just mirror reality anymore. A lot of the time, it actually creates it. But here's the thing. This isn't some brand new problem. It's actually a new version of a very, very old game. The fight to control the story, to control power. The only real difference is that power has, it's changed its costume. I mean, for hundreds of years, power was all about religious authority. The church basically told everyone what was real, and that was that. But then you get people like Galileo showing up, using science to challenge all that, saying, hey guys, pretty sure the earth moves. And that changed everything. But power didn't just vanish. Nope, it just put on a different outfit. Politicians kind of took the place of priests, and they started using their own tools, the language of science, of progress, of the economy, to stay in control. And that right there is the key. The packaging changes, The container for authority goes from religion to science, but the thing inside, the main goal, it's always the same, holding on to power. It's all about controlling the story so you can stay in charge. Now, this all might feel like something we're just now wrestling with. But believe it or not, there was a thinker, you could almost call him a prophet for our times, who saw this entire situation coming a long, long time ago. Yeah, way before social media, before the 24/7 news cycle was even a thing, this guy basically drew a map of the world that we're all living in right now. His name was Jean Baudrillard. Now, technically, he was a French sociologist and philosopher, but honestly, it makes more sense to call him a futurologist. He wasn't just talking about the world he lived in, he was diagnosing our future. And the incredible thing is, he'd left us a toolkit to understand it all. In books written mostly back in the 70s and 80s, he was already breaking down the very things that define our lives today. A world obsessed with shopping, with symbols, with signs, and this really weird new relationship with what's real. He literally gave us the words to describe our own time decades before it even got here. His big idea was something called Simulacra. He basically said that we were heading towards a state of hyperreality. What does that mean? It means a world so full of copies, models, and symbols of real things that eventually we can't tell the difference anymore. He famously said the map would become more important, more real than the actual land it represents. Okay, so let's bring this all the way back to Don't Look Up and that giant comet. The movie gave us a very literal, very obvious meteor heading for Earth. But watching it makes you ask a really important question about our own world, doesn't it? In the movie, the meteor was this simple, undeniable fact that people still somehow manage to deny. So the question is, what are our meteors? What are the giant, world-changing problems staring us right in the face that we're all busy ignoring or debating, or maybe just turning into entertainment? All because we're stuck in that hyper-reality Baudrillard was talking about. And that leaves us with one final, and maybe the most important question of all. The movie's title, Don't Look Up, was a command, right? A command to ignore what's right in front of you. But in our world, where reality itself feels like it's been pulverized and every single story is fighting for a piece of our attention, maybe the real challenge isn't just if we look up, it's figuring out what, in the first place, is even worth looking at.